Hey, my YouTube buddies, how you all doing? Today I thought of making a video on a very important topic, that is a guide to buy a used motorcycle. And the reason I'm making this video is because I understand most of us wish to buy a brand new motorcycle from a dealership. But it is easier said than done because arranging the money to buy a brand new motorcycle, it is not always possible for all of us because these kind of motorcycles, they cost considerable amount of money. And if we can narrow down to a good used motorcycle, then the amount of money that we save is considerable, and that can help a lot of us achieve our dream of buying a performance oriented motorcycle. So this video is in general applicable to any motorcycle. However, I would be speaking in terms of the KTM Duke 390 because I have this motorcycle right in front of me, and this is one of the motorcycles which is really in demand. So before I start talking more about this video, well, you would see that I'm back to the stock exhaust, and my beautiful sounding aftermarket exhaust is missing because the last time I had a fall on the racetrack, the motorcycle fell onto the right side and the exhaust, which was here, it got bent. So I sent it back to the company, and now I got to wait and see what happens. But also, so whenever I make a video riding the Duke 390 from now, you would notice that you would not hear the beautiful sound and you would only hear the wind noise, which is very unfortunate, but let us see what we can do. So friends, I have written down a few points, very important points, which you should follow before you buy a used motorcycle. Because if we end up buying the wrong kind of motorcycle, you would get into a lot of trouble, because if the motorcycle is mechanically not sound, or if there is any kind of an issue with it legally or with the paperwork. So let us start with the first point. Now, if you wish to buy a used Duke 390, what do? First, you have to find out if there is a motorcycle for sale, correct? How do you do it? I would say do not get onto websites like OLX and search for a motorcycle like this. Well, OLX and Flickr, they are really good for selling and buying furniture, but not something like a motorcycle, because there have been too many people posting fraudulent ads on those websites. I'm not saying it's always bad, but you really got to be careful on those kind of websites. I would suggest, instead of doing that, post on Facebook, because we all have quite a few friends who are into the same kind of hobby or passion, that is riding a motorcycle. So post on Facebook that you are interested in buying a Duke 390, and there are also forums, different motorcycle forums. So post there, and the best part of posting on Facebook is that if a person has a motorcycle which is for sale, then you get more information about the person right away. You can look at his profile, you can see where he has ridden the motorbike, has he done some crazy wheelies or burnouts with the motorcycle. So you get to know more about the person on Facebook. That is point number one. So point number two, once you have got the information that there is a motorcycle for sale, do not meet third party people like brokers or friends of the person who is selling the motorbike. Meet only the owner of the motorbike, because there are many brokers who try to sell someone else's machine to make some money. Well, there's nothing wrong in that, but what happens is that these brokers, they give a lot of false information. They do not really know anything about the history of the motorcycle, but they'll tell you everything and a lot of lies to sell the machine. So it's better to meet the owner directly. And also, when you meet the owner, meet him at his residence. Do not meet him outside somewhere at a coffee shop and take a look at the motorbike. The reason is, say if my motorcycle is for sale and if you come to meet me at my residence, you would come to know about a few very important factors. That is, how is the motorcycle parked? Does the owner just park the motorcycle outside in rain and sun, or does he have a safe and secure parking like what I do? That way you can get to know how the motorcycle was maintained and taken care of. Point number 4, And make sure when someone says that he is the owner, take a look at the registration certificate of the motorcycle and confirm that he is indeed the owner. Check his identification, because there have been many cases where people say that he is the owner but the motorcycle is not registered on his name, his or her name. So, well, that is a different issue. When you buy some imported super bikes, you in few situations don't register on your name, which is a different scenario. But considering motorcycles like Duke 390 or an RC 390, make sure you buy it from someone who has the motorcycle registered on his or her name only. There would be many cases where people would tell you that this is my brother's motorcycle, this is my uncle's motorcycle, and they have given me the permission to sell this to you. And there have been instances where people have bought motorcycles without meeting the owner from the so-called brothers or friends, and they have got into issue with the paperwork. Because sometimes in unfortunate situations, I can give you an example. Like, if I have taken money from someone as a loan and I don't repay him, then if the person takes the motorcycle from me without legally, he cannot take the motorcycle from me, but forcefully, if he takes the motorcycle from me and he sells it to you saying that he is my cousin or brother or friend, then you would buy it, you would still get the registration certificate, but legally you can get into trouble, because I can always go to police and say I have never sold this motorcycle to you. So meet the owner only and take his consent. Point number 5, friends, that is, okay, now you have met the owner at his residence and you're taking a look at the motorbike. Well, first thing you got to take a look at is, of course, how well the motorcycle is maintained in general. I'm not saying that it should be well polished and it should keep shining. No. Well, if it is shining and well polished, it's good. But take a look at the basics, like how well are the rims maintained? Is the rim all dirty? Or the most critical thing is, take a look at the chain. If the chain is rusted and in a bad shape, then it shows the character of the owner. He, in general, would be a careless person, because if he is not even taking care of basics like the motorcycle chain, then you better not be interested in that motorcycle. Also, take a look at things like dents. See, a motorcycle can have a small fall, there's nothing wrong. Motorcycles cannot balance themselves. So many people get very paranoid of a small scratch here, or a paint going off from the fender in a small way. Don't worry about those minor things, but take a look at major things like, is there a scratch or a big fall mark on the clutch cap or the stator cap. And when it comes to the Duke 390 especially, or the RC 390, I have a few points which you should make sure that you check. That is, we all know these rims are very lightweight rims, correct? And these tires are low profile tires. So the odds of these alloy wheels bending or cracking is pretty high. So do take a look at the whole area of the rim, alright, and make sure there are no bends or no cracks. And if there is a bend or a crack, well, don't get very paranoid about it, but negotiate the cost with the owner. So say if on this motorcycle the rear rim is not fine and the new rim costs about 3,800 rupees, so have a talk and reduce that amount of price, and then so that way you can go and buy a brand new rim for yourself. Point number 6, friends. Well, especially for the Duke or the RC 390, you got to remember one point, and that is the tires on this motorbike are soft compound tires. So if you have found a motorbike which has done only 6,500 or 7,000 kilometers, which is a big probability, because I have seen many people selling their motorcycles which are only 1 year old or less than that, and usually when a motorcycle is less than 1 year old and has done only 7 or 8,000 kilometers, it sounds like a brand new motorcycle, and it is, matter of fact, a very new motorcycle. But remember, the life of the rear tire on a RC 390 or a Duke 390 is about 10,000 kilometers, and the practical life is about 8,000 kilometers, and the front tire would do about 12 or 14,000 kilometers or a little more. So if you buy a motorcycle which is done about 7 or 8,000 kilometers, then you would have to spend about 10,000 rupees on the rear tire and about 8,000 rupees on the front tire in a month or two. So this would be an immediate expense for you. So what you got to do is you got to explain this to the owner. He could be aware of this or he could not be aware, but let him know that I am paying you so and so amount, but this is an immediate expense for me, and according to that negotiate with the owner. I'm not saying ask him to slash down the price of the motorbike by 18,000 rupees. He would not be doing that, but if you can negotiate to get it down by 8,000 rupees or so, then it would help you in buying a brand new set of tires. Point number 7, friends. There are many 2013 Dukes for sale, just like mine. Now mine has only done about 9,000 or just close to 10,000 kilometers. I have a brand new rear tire, which is a different thing. But what kind of price should you be paying for a motorcycle with stock tires, front and rear, which is about 2013 and or 2014 early? I would say a motorcycle which is done less than 10,000 kilometers, you can pay about 1,50,000 rupees, because these motorcycles that time were about 2,10,000 rupees on road. So it's about 60,000 rupees lesser you can get it. That is if the tires are good. If the tires are not good, then as I said, you can negotiate for another 8,000 rupees or so. That is of course if the motorcycle is in absolutely mint condition. If it has got any issues mechanically, I would say just back off. There are enough motorcycles for sale, and get a good motorcycle which is mechanically good. Point number 8, friends. Now, how would you know if a motorcycle is mechanically good or not? Because we are not experts, correct? We are not experts engineers, or we are not expert mechanics. If you take a look at this motorcycle, and if you crank her up, if you go for a short spin for about 2 or 3 kilometers, it would in general behave like a good motorcycle. But how can you know if there's a problem in the gearbox or in the engine, correct? So what you got to do is, there is a point that I can tell you. Say for example, if I am the person who's selling this motorcycle, and you had a look at my motorcycle and you like it. Now, before negotiating on the cost, talk on the general cost. Now, if I say my motorcycle, I will sell it for 1,50,000 rupees. Now, don't finalize the price, but ask him where he gets his motorcycle serviced. Now, if I say that I am getting my motorcycle serviced at Begumpet Service Center, then take a look at the service records. Ask me the service records. I got to have all the papers, right? From the first service, second, third, or anything that I got replaced on the motorcycle. Take a look at it, and in general, if you find everything good, I've only done services, I've not replaced, say, some major clutch component, or the engine has not been opened up or anything like that, then you're good. But again, I could be hiding it, correct? I could be hiding some paperwork. So what I suggest is, as I've said, I'm getting my motorcycle serviced at Begumpet Service Center. Take me to another service center, say for example Banjara Hill Service Center. Give them a call before you take me there, and don't tell me beforehand that you're taking me to Banjara Hill Service Center, because if I have some connections there, I might try to pull some strings. So take me there and request for a general inspection. Meet up with the supervisor of the service center and tell him that you are interested in buying this motorcycle, and request him to do a thorough inspection on everything, because a good eye can figure out and catch things which you and I cannot. So that can be one of the options to do it, friends. Point number 9. Now, it is always, it feels fancy to buy a motorcycle which has got a lot of aftermarket stuff, right? good aftermarket exhaust, some crazy fancy levers and everything? Yes, because you'd be getting them free of cost along with the motorcycle in the price. But remember, if there are any modifications, make sure they have been done technically, they have been done well, not by a roadside mechanic who does not know what he's doing and he just put some crazy exhaust with a very bad middle pipe and some very cheap levers which would put too much pressure onto your master cylinder. So do not go for cheap modifications. If there are too many cheap modifications on the motorbike, too many crazy graphics, too many bad stickers, I would say please walk away from that motorbike. One of the best motorcycles to buy is a stock motorbike, absolutely stock. But again, if there is a genuine good mod like a very good aftermarket exhaust, you can buy it. Point number 9, friends. Now, there can be situations where a motorcycle is about 3 years old and the owner would say that it has done only 10,000 kilometers, which is possible. Because, for example, with a person like me who's got multiple motorbikes, I would not be riding one motorbike quite a bit, correct? So, if you know me, well, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're meeting someone who if you don't know if the odo reading is legitimate or not. So, if I say my motorcycle has done 10,000 kilometers in 3 years, it sounds very less, correct? And you don't know me. How can you trust me? Again, the same thing would be applicable, that is, take a look at the service records. Take a look at, at first service, what was it done? 1,000. At second service, what was it? 5,000. So, in every service record, the odo reading would be mentioned. And take a look at the last service, what was the odo reading? Put the math together and you can get to know if it is genuine odo reading or not. And also, about the tires, I forgot to mention that many people have moved on to Michelin tires. So, if they have put a Michelin 150 size tire onto the rear, then it is still fine. But many people have downgraded to 140 size Michelin. So, if you see that, well, you can see here and figure out the size of the tire. Okay, on the side it would be written 150 by 60 by 17. So, if you see 140 Michelin, then it's a cheaper tire. And well, if you like it, it's fine, but I personally would not like that. So if you are someone who likes the stock size, then negotiate the price so that you can buy a new tire. Also, make sure that the owner has both the original keys with him. Well, sometimes it could be that the owner has lost another key, and it could also be that he's had some issues with the finance company, so he could be having only one key with him. And if he's got only one key with him, then ask him what was the reason, how did he lose the second key, and you can generally negotiate the price and get it lesser if he does not have both the original keys with him. And with the KTM Dukes and RCs, you also get a key card on which there would be a serial number and barcode which would help you. If you give it to the dealership, they can give you a new key. I mean, they get it from the factory probably. So make sure you get the key card also. And to understand how responsible the owner has been, under the seat there would be a toolkit. Make sure there is a toolkit there, and make sure you have all the tools inside. So well, there would be a few spanners, a screwdriver, and a wheel removal spanner. So because if that is not there, if the owner says, oh, I lost it somewhere, then it means that he has been kind of irresponsible, and you wouldn't want to be buying a motorcycle from someone who has been irresponsible. Point number 10. Now friends, battery. I have done quite a few videos on batteries, correct? Now, an average battery would last about 3 to 4 years. A lead acid battery. Lithium batteries last for 7 years also, but none of these motorcycles have lithium batteries. This one has an Exide battery, which is a lead acid battery. It's a sealed one. So take a look at the battery and make sure it is a good battery, a sealed one. But again, if the motorcycle is only 1 year old or 2 years old, then there's no issue buying this motorcycle with the stock battery. But if the motorcycle is about 3 or 3.5 years old, and if it has still got the stock battery inside, then remember, the battery can fail anytime. So you got to be ready to spend another couple of thousand rupees to buy a new battery. These batteries I think cost about 1600 to 2000 rupees. So you can negotiate that price also with the owner. Point number 11, friends. Now, especially the KTM Dukes and the RCs have had some silly issues, we know, right? Like the fork seal leakages. So make sure that the motorcycle that you're taking a look at does not have any oil leaking from this area, because if that is the case, then the fork seals would need immediate replacement, and there is money to be spent there. There's a possibility that the owner would have wiped all the oil off before showing the motorcycle to you. So I suggest take a short ride. Short means not very short, at least do about 10 or 15 kilometers, and if there's any oil leakage, it would come out and it would show again. And also, there have been oil leakages on the KTM Duke 390 from here, this gasket on the top. So if you see that, well, it's not the fault of the owner, but again, it would need an immediate replacement. If it is under warranty, you can get a free replacement under warranty. If it's not, you got to spend money, but either ways, it is a job to be done. So you got to understand if you have enough time to get it done. And also, friends, check the oil level. You know, we all know how to check the oil level. Just get the motorcycle to the center and wait. The oil should be, you know, easily visible from this window, the oil window. If you don't see enough oil, it means, well, the motorbike has got some issue. Either it's burning oil, or the oil is leaking from somewhere. So it is not a good sign. If that is the case, talk to the service center people to see what is the problem. Point number 12, friends. So I spoke about the battery, that you should be focusing on checking if it's a stock battery, and also if the battery is more than 3 or 3.5 years old, do negotiate the price of the battery with the owner. Also, a very important point that you need to check, that is, well, there is something called the battery charging system on a motorcycle. I have a video on that. That is basically a motorcycle stator, which is here, produces AC power, and the AC power goes to something called a regulator rectifier, and regulator rectifier sends about 14.2 volts DC to the battery terminals. And the regulator rectifier and the stator coil on these motorcycles have been a weak point. They have failed many times. So you don't want to be buying a motorcycle which has got those kind of problems. You can, if it's under warranty, you can get a replacement, but you should know if there's a problem. So how do you check it? Get the seat off, and there are battery terminals here, the positive and the negative. You would need a multimeter. Take a multimeter along with you. It's very cheap. You can buy it even for 200 rupees. And crank the motorbike up. Let the engine keep running in neutral. Turn the multimeter to DC volts and put the leads of the multimeter here. Then you should see at least 14 or 14.2 reading up there on the multimeter. If you don't see it, if you see only 12 or 12.5, it means the battery is not charging and there is an issue with the battery charging system. If that is the case, if you have time to get it fixed, only then go ahead and talk with this owner, else move on and get another motorbike. And now, friends, point number 12 or 13. Well, I kind of forget. Anyhow, well, very important thing again, that is, whenever you go to take a look at a motorbike, go in the afternoons when it's bright and sunny, because if you go in the evenings, well, in dim light, you cannot take a proper look at the motorbike, and there are many things that you can miss, and you wouldn't want to be doing that. And even if you go in the daytime, carry a torch with you, a proper torch. You can do it with a cell phone, LED, but again, if why I say a torch is because there are many areas that you would probably want to look at. Put a torch, then you can see if there are any leakages, any oil leaks, or any wires have been cut off, or any issues like that. So oil leaks, when I say that, well, take a look at the rear shock. Even the rear shock has been a weak point on the Dukes and the RCs, and they have had oil leaks many times. Yes, even this one is replaceable under warranty, but do take a look at it. And now, one more important thing. To see how well the owner has maintained the motorbike and how responsible he has been, take a look at the brake pads. If you have a torch and put light from here, you would see what is the condition of the brake pads, how much of the pads are actually left. If they are very close to the rotor and much of the brake pad friction area is not left anymore, well, it is not a good thing. You can, well, they're not expensive, they're only 350 rupees or so, but still, you got to talk to the owner and ask him why he has not replaced them. And if you hear any screeching sound, metal to metal contact sound when you're riding the motorbike, that is really bad, friends. That means the brake pads have reached the end of life and it would damage the rotors. So you gotta get it replaced, because you gotta inspect the rotor. The rotor should be smooth without any deep scratches on it. If there are any deep scratches here, it means the owner has ridden the motorbike bad brake pads for considerable time, and the rotor is in a stage where it needs replacement. Again, I'm sure the rotor would not be very expensive, but again, it's your decision. If you would want to buy the motorbike, negotiate the cost with the owner and get it replaced, or just look for a different motorbike. Now friends, point number 14. Now when you take a look at the registration certificate of this motorbike, what you got to do is log on to the internet. Like for example, in Andhra Pradesh, in Telangana state, we have a transport department website where you can put up the number of this motorcycle, that is the registration number, and the details of the owner would show up, and also the engine number, chassis number, and also the registration date would show up. So those details should be compared with here. There would be an engine number. Where is the engine number on this motorcycle? It would be there somewhere, you got to take a look at it. And the chassis number would be right here. Okay, so take a look at what it's written on the website, the transport department website, and on the registration certificate, and here. These all three things have to match. If they are not matching, well, there is either the chassis has been replaced in an accident, or there is something really fishy with this motorbike, so I wouldn't suggest buying that motorbike. Point number 15, friends. So everything is matched. You've liked everything about this motorbike. You like the owner too. Now log on to the traffic department website. That is very critical. I think every state has a traffic department website. I'm not very sure, but Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, they do. Log on there, put up the number of this motorbike, the registration number, and see how many challans, how many fines are there. Because see, these days what cops do, if you are violating any traffic law, not stopping at the traffic signal or wrong parkings or any of those, they would take a photograph of your motorbike and put it up on the traffic website and put a fine. Sometimes it could be 100 rupees or 500 or 1000. So if there are these fines, but say if on the traffic website, if it says there are 4 challans which he has not paid, which is accounting to about 500 rupees, then make him pay it on the website in front of you and keep the receipt with you. Point number 16, and probably the last point, that is, if everything has gone fine, you like the tires, the battery is good, there are no oil leaks, the rims are nice, the brake pads are good, the paperwork is nice, there's no mechanical issue with the engine, and there are no, everything, chassis number and everything matches on the website of the registration authority, and the traffic violation tickets have been paid off, Now you got to make a payment to the owner and then take possession of the motorbike, correct? In this case, there could be owners who would say that give me all the money by cash. So for example, for this motorbike you have made the final decision to pay 1,50,000. So if I say give me 1,50,000 as cash and take the motorbike, don't do it, because there has to be a proof of purchase. That is extremely important. Now tomorrow if I say that I've never sold this motorbike to you, you would get into legal issues. So at least make 50% of the payment by check or bank transfer. That way, and transfer it only to my account. If you are writing a check, write it only on my name. That way you would have a proof saying that you have made a payment towards a motorcycle to the owner if I create any issues tomorrow. And take my identification, take a photocopy of my PAN card or my driver's license. Also, always make a proper document. You can make it on a legal paper, could be a 100 rupee paper or a 50 rupee paper. Get it written down that so and so person is selling a motorbike to you, and the registration number is so and so, the engine and chassis number is so and you have finalized a deal for so and so amount, and you are making 50% by check, and mention the check number, or if you have done bank transfer, mention the bank transfer transaction number. Make a proper legal document and have the owner sign on it, and have 3 witnesses sign on it. You know, they could be your friends or they could be a family, but always keep a proper legal document. And you can also do one more thing when you're negotiating all this with the owner. Last 1 minute or so, when you shake hands and say yes, I'm going to buy this motorbike, you can have a friend of yours take a video of the whole conversation for a couple of minutes. You know, it's just to be safe, you know. Also friends, I think I forgot one point. That is, we can call this to be point number 17, the radiator. Take a look at the radiator. These are called radiator fins, and they are the lines that you see here. That is where the coolant flows. So there is a possibility that there could be stones that could hit the radiator and damage these fins. If 1 or 2 fins are kind of bent, don't worry about it much. It's very common. But if the radiator has got too many, you know, stone hits, then it is not a good thing. You can negotiate the price there, and we just got to make sure that the motorcycle is not overheating. So when you go for a ride, just check it that the temperature is behaving. If you are at least riding at 40-50 kilometers an hour, it should not overheat. And now take a look at the coolant level here. All right, it should be in between maximum and minimum. It should be around this area. And just take a look at the hoses. Make sure they have no leakages or any cuts here. All right. Well, most of the points which I've mentioned are very easy to check on the Duke 390, but on RC 390, unfortunately, because as we have the fairing there, we would not be able to check all the points. But as I said, you can take the motorbike to a service center and get the thorough inspection done, where a professional could check all this for you. So as we cannot remove the fairing, the owner would not accept that. But at the service center, they know how to do it. They can get the fairing out, check everything properly. Please stay there. You can also take a look at everything and then take the final decision. That's it, friends. I could have missed a few points. If I have missed, I'll put it up in the description or the comments. And happy riding. It is a great proposition to buy a good used motorcycle, because the money saved here, you can put it into buying good riding gear, which is extremely critical for safety. Cheers, and please share this video to all of your friends, because it could help someone buy a good motorcycle. And I feel I am qualified to speak about all these points because I have bought quite a few used motorcycles. If you are not subscribed to the channel, friends, all that I can say is that you are missing out on a lot of videos. I got more than 230 videos, so do subscribe. We can be friends and we can talk about motorcycles and issues related to them. That's it. Cheers. Bye-bye.